Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and today I'm going to show you how to get your spindle apart and replace the bearings or get the mounting bar off without completely tearing this apart. Now you can do this in the mower deck on the machine if you want to. The first thing you're going to want to do is take this big nut off the top. This is a 1 1/16 nut or wrench you're going to need. Then you got two washers that go up here. These are flat washers. These are not Belleville washers. Then you got your pulley. You got your pulley spacer. Make sure that goes into the pulley the right way. If you put this on upside down and then put your pulley on, your pulley is going to flop all over. That step on the top of this spacer is what centers the pulley so it doesn't wiggle around or flop around when it starts to spin. Then you have your brake drum. Then you have three thick spacers, washers. Them go on next. Let me tip you down, you can see my pile of parts here. Now this is a cutaway. And when I cut this in half because of the stresses, especially down here where it's welded, this end tended to collapse a little. So it's harder to get this apart than what it should be. The top expanded a little. That's why the bearing, if I can hold this solid, you can't really see it. You can hear it. The bearing is moving around in that housing. That's not normal. Now, to get the mounting bar off, so many of them are rusted on there and you just cannot get them loose. You can hold the bar and get the nut broke loose. And that nut is, I believe, it's 15/16. Get the nut off. Now these are self-locking nuts. These go on and off very easily because I ran a tap through them and got rid of the locking part. Now, because of these snap rings, this is the top of the spindle. The snap rings align this bearing in the proper position, and this bearing lines up everything else to get the distance right so everything turns and it's not flopping around. Now, if you cannot get this mounting bar off, I've tried putting the pulley back on and tightening this nut up, then holding the pulley and using an impact, but usually it just spins this nut loose and you can't get it out. Now remember, this is still bolted into your deck. To get it out, you got to remove 3 bolts, and there is 2 snap ring grooves up here, and you have to take this top snap ring off, so this will slide out the bottom of your deck, and this will slide out of this top support on the structure on the top of the mower deck. If you want to just leave all this together, that's fine. Get yourself a plastic hammer. Or if you don't have a plastic hammer, put this nut back on. Where did I put that? Put this nut back on so it is flush with the top of the shaft. You do not want to mess the threads up on this shaft. It's not going to take much to get this out. You want to tap on this. and slide this bottom bearing out of this tube. Mine comes apart a lot harder than it should be because of the way this is shrank from cutting it. Shrunk, I don't know. Now, how do you get that mounting bar off? Well, the only important parts on this spindle is the fit where the bearings go and the shoulder that the bearings push against. That's what aligns. The distance on this shaft from shoulder to shoulder is what aligns everything off of the top bearing that's mounted solid in the tube. This does nothing. Nothing, guys. I milled 2 flats on here just so I could get a wrench on it and hold it. But as you can see, I can show you without banging my camera. See the vice marks all over that? That's right, don't hurt a thing. You lock that in a vise and you get, I use a large rubber hammer. And you just wail on it until it breaks loose. Now the next important piece is this washer. I had one viewer that lost it. You can get them from Parts Tree. The part number for that washer is 7014407, and they are $7.49 a piece. But they have a step on it. That step is important. You put the step against the inner race of this bearing. And when you screw your mounting bar on here, that stops this washer just inside of this housing. And that kind of acts like a dirt shield to keep some of the sand and dirt from working up in and getting into that bearing. So now you got the whole thing apart. Very simple to put back together. Now remember, this part is still mounted in the mower deck on the machine. You put your new bearing on the bottom. The bottom is the part with the 2 different threads. The top has 1 thread. Put your bearing on. You put your washer on with the boss down. Then you can screw your mounting bar on. But let me screw this old one on here. Now, nothing is sticking above this bar except for the threads for that nut. Now, I had one viewer get a hold of me and said, we put our mounting bar on and the threads for the mounting bar are sticking up and I can't get the nut down far enough to lock the bar on. Well, I guess what he probably did is he either put the wrong washer or no washer down here, or he bought himself a new bar, and you can see now the threads are sticking up, they're in your way. These new bars are 1/8 of an inch thinner than the old bars. Anything to screw us up, I'll tell you, and save themselves 50 cents. Now, if you have that old bar, and you have to use it, or I should say the new bar, you want to get yourself some washers. You could even use a couple of these. Drop them on top of this large washer with the boss. Do not put them under it. Put them on top of it. I need these for the brake drum. Then when you screw on your new bar, it will hold it in the right position, and your nut will go on and lock down. That's how the bottom goes together. And this bearing should spin freely when it's all locked up. Otherwise, you got something wrong. You probably have this big washer on there upside down, and it's pushing on this outer race. Now, with this still in your machine, to change this upper bearing, you have to take these snap rings off, and this will come right out. It'll slide in. You don't have to press it. You put your snap ring back in. This is still in your machine. You may have to jack this thing up. And you want to just slide this up in here and give it a good push. And you can bump it a little bit with the hammer if you want to. Make sure that's all the way up in there. Once you start screwing this stuff back together, it's going to pull this one up in where it belongs, and it's going to lock everything together. Now, with this in your machine, if you want to take it out of your machine, you can't go any farther than this until you get it back in the deck. So once this is back up in the deck, this is bolted down, you have your second snap ring in here because you never took this bottom one out. Put that snap ring in, and whatever you do, let me grab one, if I can find them. You have your little wavy washer. I don't know why they decided to do this. Oh, you can't really, I guess you can see the new one in there. It's just got a bunch of little crimps in it. That goes on right there. So if you don't slide this out, you don't have to worry about it. If you take this out of the deck, make sure you put this back on. I really don't know why they put them on there. If they wouldn't have machined this groove, you can see the groove right here, into this housing, they wouldn't have needed that. But it's engineers for you. So you got this in your mower deck, you slid this back up in here, take your 3 thick washers and put them on there. Then you want to put your brake drum on. Now once you get that setting on there, spin it, make sure your brake drum's turning. Then your spacer goes on for your big pulley. But remember, you got to put this in your machine if you took it out before you put this top on. Then the pulley goes on and sits on that spacer. 2 washers. These are just plain flat washers. These are anyway. I don't know, maybe at one point they had Belleville washers on there. I have no clue. Then you just tighten this up. Now you can reach under your deck and hang on to this bar and tighten that up good. If you got an impact, even better. Hang on, I hang on to the pulley and I hit this with an impact and tighten it up. Just in case it grabs and spins, I won't get beat to death by this. And when you get it done, the whole thing should spin without any dragging or scraping noises. That's it. It's all put back together. You got new bearings in it, and you can go back and mow that yard. Whoopee. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and I'll talk to you soon. So long.